The doctor comes in and sits down with us and he brings a woman. She's a genetic counselor. And she introduces herself and they just said, unfortunately, we're seeing some things on the ultrasound. It looks like your baby has orthogyposis. It can be something that can be super extreme that the baby won't make it, or this could be something that your baby's going to need a lot of surgery and medical help.
What emotions are you personally going through as a woman? Is it like, I did this for nothing? Like, where's the prize at the end of it? You know what I mean? Is there guilt? Is there peace that you're like at peace with the decision? What were those feelings that you felt and how did you get through it?
You kind of get numb to it and you kind of lose this joy in this exciting part when you're in this phase because after you go through a couple of losses or miscarriages, you can't go in hopeful looking at the ultrasound.
Right.
Yeah, you're just like, okay.
It is what it is.
What's going to happen?
It's very interesting because they says that like 15 to 20% of women who suffer a pregnancy loss face like depression and anxiety throughout their life. Right? But then it even says like 25% of the women are referred out to something with mental health.
Yeah.
Like that's something that's talked about. It's kind of like all right, well, this happened to you. I'm so sorry for your loss. Here's a tissue, and you can go about your day.
Good luck.
It's really remarkable to see that now you have these two miracle little babies.
So now we have two beautiful children. Adley just hit 2 in July, and then Carter's 8 months.
I spend so much time talking to my clients about the importance of proper nutrition outside of the gym. And the number one area of struggle is not getting enough protein. So Boss and Kevin developed Vita Hustle One superfoods for this very reason. This plant-based blend contains 86 superfood ingredients that support muscle recovery and overall well-being. It's not just about what you do in the gym, it's also about how you fuel your body. So try Vita Hustle One superfood in vanilla bean, dark cocoa, which is my fave, or superfood greens in the popular berry flavor. Use code MEAGAIN for 15% off your first order.
Hey everyone, it's me again, your host Dominique, and of course I have my girl,
Naycha.
We are here today with a very, very special episode and a very special guest. Her name is Jamie Crist. She is the author of a book called The Losses We Keep. We will be talking about fertility and IVF and, of course, her story along the journey. So thank you, Jamie, for being here with us.
So happy to be here.
Yay, I'm so excited because this is actually a topic for me that, honestly, I don't know much about. I've only had so much compassion, right, for anyone who's gone through fertility or has to do IVF, et cetera. So I know Naycha and I, of course, as mothers, are so interested to hear your story and the story, I'm sure, of many others. But before we get into your book, I want to do our little icebreaker questions.
Love me an icebreaker.
Okay, so my girlfriend Nina, Nina Westbrook, she's been on the episodes before. She's a therapist and she has these cute little
I love that.
therapy cards, I guess.
I need to check these out.
Yes,
afterwards,
they're
but
so
I'm going to
cute.
go right into it. Yeah.
And even better for you and your husband, because sometimes it seems like there's nothing to talk about. And so you're like, let me just pull a card. Yeah. Okay, so I have a couple here. We won't do them all, but okay, so here's one. So what is one thing that regularly keeps you up at night? Who wants to go first?
You go ahead.
Nothing really keeps me up because I'll fall asleep. It's waking up in the middle of the night and then my brain is running through everything that I got to do the next day, what I got to do that week, what I didn't do that I had to do. So I would say I could definitely go to sleep. When I wake up, my brain is everywhere.
You can't go back to sleep. What about you, Jamie?
It's rough. So funny enough, because I have this problem when I lay down, the to-do list where you're talking about happens to me, like it happens as I'm like going to bed. I try to do like a brain dump on my phone.
Ooh, smart.
But this is the thing, I try to take a bath before bedtime to say like, this is the phone is put down and anything else that's like on my brain afterwards, or it's like, oh, I need to do that next thing, put it on the phone, and I just put my phone away. So, and I feel like because I get up so early, I just crash at the end of the day. Like,
wow.
There's just, it's tough. But
wait, that's actually a great tip already in the first 5 minutes is to take a bath and do a brain dump.
You used to watch Run's House?
Yeah.
He used to sit in the bath and he used to journal, or his blueberry, his blackberry.
Run's house.
Yeah. That's such a great idea.
Yeah, it's like,
A brain
it kind of
dump
like
is
allows
nice.
me to wash away the day, like whatever happened for the day, just wash it away. And it's funny because my husband owns a business and he wakes up at like 4 a.m. I think you were talking about like boss wakes up with the birds. That's my husband. He takes a bath every morning. Like that's his thinking
Wow.
tank. Our water
Epsom
bill's
salt.
outrageous probably. But yeah, at night it's like end of the day, everything's ready for the next day. And I just like, okay, I'm just going to take a quick, it might be 2 minutes if it's late because I'm like, I need to get to bed and go to bed early. But if there's any lingering things, I try to like just write it down. And that way it's not just lingering in my mind.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. So let me just reread this question because it's getting weird. What is one thing that regularly keeps you up at night? Are you guys mothers? Because I'm like the kids.
Oh, my
They're
son
up.
sleeps. I'm sorry.
My kids sleep,
sorry.
but
It's
they
hit or
are up.
miss.
Something's going on.
It's hit or miss.
1 out of the 3, something's happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And currently it's Cade, the second one, the middle
like,
child.
in a certain
you
stage
have
right
3.
now?
Well, honestly though, him and Cruz, they're teething. So Cade's getting the 2-year-old molars, and Cruz is getting some canines or something.
It
and
doesn't
so they're
end.
just up.
It's like
Yeah.
these phases. Like literally, our son, who's 8 months, started sleeping through the night. Our daughter climbed out of her crib like it was like no other.
gotta
Like
change
she's just
her.
like, I'm out of this thing. And so we weren't prepared because I was like, all right, we got another year. She's 2.
Yeah.
No, she totally climbs out of her crib, and it's a whole transition of like, do we put her in a toddler bed? But she doesn't want to sleep in the toddler bed. So we have this nugget couch. I don't know if you heard the nugget
Yes,
couch.
I have heard about the nugget couch.
That's her bed. She wants to sleep on the nugget couch. I kid you not. So it's like lock her in her room, and then she's waking up in the middle of the night freaking out. So last night they slept through the night, but it's definitely not every night, and it's like going from one room to the other room.
Oh yeah. When sometimes
Damn,
my husband's
wow.
on the road, I'm like, I need someone in here V, you need to be in here late hours at night recording me because I'm like in one door, then I shut the door. Oh, thank God. Then I go to my room and it's like, Mom! I'm like,
You're like, somebody's playing with
Knox?
me
You're
right
4.
now.
You've been sleeping through the night. There's a monster. Okay, you know what? And I have to go potty. The door's unlocked, son. You can go potty. Don't lock my door. It's like a whole thing. And then I shut the door. Okay, great. And then Cade calls, Mommy, where's my monster truck? Why are you worried about monster
It's like
truck at
3
11
a.m.
o'clock at
Yeah.
night? You know, it's like you were in bed. So now I'm threatening Knox and Cade, the older ones. You're going to go to bed at 7 o'clock with Cruz because they have 7:30 and 8:15. If it's taking you 2 hours to go to sleep, if it's like this whole thing, if not, if you want to stay up later, then you lay your butt
You're
down.
negotiating in the middle of the night. It's amazing how this happens, right?
It's exhausting.
And meanwhile, the husbands are probably still sleeping.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
doesn't hear things like, oh, did the kids wake up last night? I'm like,
yeah.
are you kidding me right now?
I've been up all night.
The kid comes in your bed, but they're all on top of you. They're like on you. It's like,
You mean you're out of the bed and they're on your side?
literally. No, I'm just gonna get up and go sleep on the couch. You can stay here.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, okay, I just wanted
I just
to.
heard you go off
wanted
tangent. We're
to.
talking about baths and everything. But
Well, no, I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on the question.
yeah. No, I appreciate that.
I will say that my son does sleep pretty well.
No,
Getting him to
honestly-
sleep is a little hard, but once he sleep, he be out.
No, yeah. It's honestly, I have to say, I think we all, sleep training is like the number one thing you
Yes.
can do as a mom.
Yes.
But like you said, the phases, and because mine are 4, 2, and 1, there's always some phase happening. So whether you're sick, whether you're teething, whether you're potty training, whether you're transitioning out the bed or whatever it is, there's some sort of transition that is disturbing sleep with one of them. So anyways, okay, so here we go. Here's the second one. What part of your body are you most proud of? Who wants to go first?
You go first.
Okay,
Oh,
I'll
you go first.
Okay, I will say this is a hard one because, like, do we keep it superficial or do we like get all
I was about to get deep.
lovey-dovey with this? I would just say,
Lovey-dovey.
like sentimental.
Go ahead. You're sentimental. Get
Okay,
deep.
no, I'm just gonna say superficial. So I'm gonna say I am the most proud of my legs. Because this is the only reason why I'm going to say this is because when I was I was always fit and active, and then when I was pregnant, you know what I mean, I could not work out in the same way. I stayed healthy and active, but I wasn't able to really, achieve results that I really wanted. And so now that I'm done with kids, boss. Now I'm done with the kids. I've been working so hard to like rebuild and eating all the time and like put muscle on. And so I'm just proud of, I guess, of my results that I've gotten up to this point. Although we can probably have a conversation about other things because I'm sure you have something about grounding and what your body's done for you. So go ahead.
You know, it's well internal for me. I feel like the best part I feel like about my body, I don't think it's the look of it. I think it's what's inside. So I feel like my heart, and I'm gonna say my heart.
Okay, for beating.
For beating, for the compassion I can carry, for the light I could give in a room, in a sense.
Well, she just blew me out the water.
But just me as a like human, just appreciating who
balance.
I am.
I love that.
It's so good.
Your turn.
Jamie, what do you have?
I'm like, well, reflecting just the whole body because of what I've been through physically. Yeah. And I know we're going to get into it later, but like between the pregnancy losses, we were talking about a random appendix surgery, and I just look back and I never thought I would be going through these things. I was an athlete growing up, I played field hockey for college and just thought, you know, working out and that's it, and was super fit. And then when you go through this phase of motherhood and trying, and then you just don't realize how capable your body is able to handle things and bounce back and recover and just
resilience.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So just looking back on that, it's been through a lot, but that's what I'm super proud of just getting through it and being okay. And like that transformation of being like, you know, when you're an athlete, you're like, you're fit, all the things. And now you like look from like internally to physically what your body goes through motherhood. And not to sound like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of them are like, I'm proud of my body and what it went through. Like it goes through a lot. And just to be proud that you can still function and still, you know, get through the day to day. I think that's what I really like reflect on my body. Yeah.
It really is true because even Noxie goes all the time. And I was just joking, not joking. I am proud of my results and stuff. But with Noxie the other day, he's like, Mom, why are you going to the gym? And I'm like, baby, I have to stay healthy for you. You know what I mean? And like, that's a motivation of like, I want to stay healthy and strong for my kids and to live longer, you know what I mean? And that kind of thing, to be there for them in their lives. And I think I was telling someone earlier is like, it is true what the woman's body goes through, the female body goes through with birth. And I mean, it's miraculous. I was playing pickleball the other day and I like tried to go for a ball that was obviously too low and I thought I was there and I was like, oh, I forgot I had all those kids. My back is about to snap, you know, and you don't realize the toll that it really has taken. And hormonally, physically,
but we also put so much pressure on ourselves to bounce
so much
back.
pressure.
Like, I don't know if this is like a thing I've been seeing. It's like I've been seeing some trainers who just had kids and like, I'm back to my pre-baby weight. And I'm like, what the fuck? You're a trainer for one thing. Like, why are we trying to get back to pre-baby weight? Like, you just had a baby. It's only like 3 or 4 months. Like, what? Like, what is happening here? Did I miss the memo? But
it's true.
It's hard, because there's just so much in hormones. I mean, that's a whole other topic for another day. But how hormones play into it, and you have no control over that at times, and just being gentle to yourself. But you should be proud of the fit and what you're doing to get, you know, to feel like you and to feel strong, because it's like functional fit that to get through the day with your kids, that's so key, you know?
Yeah. And just mentally, it's like, can you recognize yourself? You know what I mean? I mean, there was times I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know who I am. Like, what am I even looking at? It was just, you know, you're feeling sloppy, you're holding, you know, it's just, if you can feel the best about yourself, it just helps, you know, to go through your day and accomplish, you know, the hardships or whatever that is coming your way. But, okay, so that was a good one. So now this is going to be a question that I think could probably get us into your very interesting story, amazing, inspirational story. So this is, if you could remove one obstacle or challenge from your life, what would it be and why, right? Yeah. And so, Jamie, I'd love to hear about, I know you've had plenty of obstacles and challenges. Maybe you wouldn't remove it. Maybe you would say that it's why you are who you are today. But tell us about your life, how you started, and, you know, how you got into writing your book, and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Well, there's not, to your point, I would say when you look back and when you go through the hard things, you don't want to take it away, you know, because that's truly like it made me who I am today. And even growing up as a kid, my childhood was a little bit messy, I would say. My mom, my dad passed when I was 4, and my mom was an alcoholic at the time. And I'm so fortunate that my mom had a sister who was willing to take legal custody of me at the time when I was about 5 years old. And it was tough. You know, I moved in with her and her husband. She just had her son. My aunt is an angel, and I'm so lucky to have her in my life. And so growing up, it wasn't always easy for me, and just being placed with my aunt and my uncle. And I still had a relationship with my mom, but she was going through some things on her own, with alcohol abuse, drug at times. And, you know, when I was about 10 years old, she started getting it together. She met my stepdad, they got married, and the relationship was still hard at the time, you know, like just with alcoholism. And when a family member doesn't really recover and work through it, it's hard from a mother-daughter relationship. And, you know, as a daughter, I felt like I had to be the parent at times. So I think if anything, I wish that she passed about 7 years ago, and I look back and I wish that our relationship just, that obstacle maybe would have changed a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, we were right before before she passed, you know, our relationship was coming around the corner, which I felt so lucky that we had that time together, because it was such a bumpy road for us at times. And so, yeah, I would say just from that's one obstacle I wish that I could have evolved a bit. But because of what I went through as a kid and made me such a hard worker, I was an athlete, like I said earlier. I grew up in Delaware, small town USA. And so for me, I always wanted to prove myself. And I think that was just the inner athlete in me, but it also with not having a parent that was around. Lots of therapy later, we've learned this, that, you know, your worthiness, you just felt like, you know, as a kid, when your parents are not around, you don't feel as worthy. And I would say that really drove me to, you know, I wanted to get out of my hometown. I wanted to make something for myself. And so I went to college, and I ended up getting a job with Under Armour. In the early days, it was about 2008. And I packed up and moved to Baltimore, and just was really focused on my career there. I think for a lot of women who leave college, you think, all right, I'm gonna climb this corporate ladder. I'm gonna do everything I can. I did sports marketing for my last 7 years there within track and field and the run community, which I absolutely loved. And throughout that time, I hit burnout. And it's interesting when I look back, when the universe kind of gives you that knock of like, are you paying attention? I think Oprah calls it like, okay, like.
Anything Oprah says is gold.
I know. Seriously. And with that last few years, I was at Under Armour. Like I said, my mom passed away. It was very unexpected. And it made me realize that, you know, life with your family and time is short, how to work through those relationships, even when they're really hard.
Yeah.
And that was in late 2018. In 2019, my husband and I decided we wanted to start a family. It was time, and we got pregnant very quickly. And it was like, oh, shit, that happened quicker than we expected. Yes. And we were excited. And even for me, like I said, being that competitive person and thinking that, you know, I was fit, I was super healthy. I got pregnant so quickly. I'm so proud. And that was July of 2019. And then it came around like the fall time. We were hitting about the 3rd or 4th month of pregnancy. And, you know, at that time it was like 14 weeks. We started sharing on social media. It was like a weird week prior or 2 weeks prior to that, where they found a mass on my breast. And then literally a day later, they found a mass on the baby's abdomen, and everything was fine. They were just like, you know, from the mass on your breast, it was hormones. And this mass on the baby's abdomen, like, we'll just check back in a few weeks. And I was like, all right, you know, it's first time we were pregnant. Thought this was normal. It's fine. And then we went back in for our 16-week appointment, which isn't normal in pregnancy. Usually you have your 12-week, and then you have
20.
Typically you're 20, right? And we went in and, the ultrasound tech, she's going around with the probe. And for some reason, I actually brought my husband that time. The 12-week appointment, he didn't come. And he came to this one. I was like, I just want you to come. It was a little weird last time. And, she's going around. She shows us the baby's face and we're talking through. It's like, oh, it's going to be a girl. And then she just gets quiet. And we're like, all right, and she's like, I'll be right back. I'm going to go get the doctor. We have no idea what's going on. The doctor comes in and he's poking around and he's like shaking a probe and he's, saying, hey, we just need to have a conversation. I'm going to clean you up. Let's walk into this room. He walks out, they come get us. And this is tiny room. And, my husband and I are like, this is so strange. I'm like, he's like, is this normal? I'm like, I have no idea. And the doctor comes in and sits down with us and he brings a woman, she's a genetic counselor. And she introduces herself and they just said, unfortunately, we're seeing some things on the ultrasound. It looks like your baby has orthogyposis. And we're like, I'm sorry, what is that? What do you mean? They're like, well, that's when the central nervous system with the muscular system, it's a chromosome issue where the hands are curled in and legs are not fully out. And this can be something that can be super extreme that the baby won't make it, or this could be something that your baby's going to need a lot of surgery and medical help. And for some reason, prior to this, my husband and I had a conversation. If we ever have to make a decision if something's wrong with the baby medically, what is that? What does that look like for us to make sure we're on the same page? And it's so weird looking back on and reflecting because that was just random when we had that conversation. We never thought we'd be in this room having this discussion with the doctor. And he walks out. Brad and I, my husband, we're just in shock. I'm just in tears because I'm like, I don't even know what to say. This came out of nowhere. How did they not catch us before? We just got the genetic tests. Nothing came up. How? And the genetic counselor that came back in with him, with the doctor, she just was like, listen, I work for a hospital that is focused on advanced fetal care. We're happy to bring you in for a second opinion. And so that's what we end up doing. And the doctor there basically told us that things don't look well. And, we advise you that you're going to have to terminate this pregnancy for medical reasons.
Wow. And
it just kind of just shook us. My husband's a go-getter. We just were like, okay, we're going to this appointment. We're getting through the day. We got everything lined up. When you're in that zone, just when you get news like this, it really just stops you in your tracks. And you're just, it just kind of frees you.
16 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're almost halfway through to your pregnancy.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You kind of just start dreaming what the nursery is going to look like. And, we were looking at new cars because we're like, we're going to need more room. And I even had our baby registry started because everybody was like, oh, let me give you recommendations. And I think for a lot of women, I don't know if you two experience this, it's you feel like you get to the 12th week mark and you're like, okay, I could tell everybody.
That's what they tell you. That's you're safe.
We're safe. And, when growing up as a woman, you just don't realize these things can happen. It can come out of nowhere. And, my mom had never talked about it with me really, but she mentioned she had 2 miscarriages. I didn't really fully understood at that time what that meant. And nobody else in my family really experienced this. And none of our friends went through that too. And so that was really our first pregnancy loss that we had back in 2019 and had a surgery. And what really shocked me was going through that process. You go for a D&C, which I had, and, you finish and that's it. And it's like, all right, well, if you want to go back to work, if you feel up to it, you could go back to work in a couple of days. And that was it.
And then tell me especially at your first time, right? First time being pregnant, first time having would you call it a miscarriage since you had to turn
it wasn't. It was an abortion technically. Yeah. And you know what? It didn't really pawn on to me until almost a few weeks later that what happened to us was an abortion. Yeah. And that's not how they describe. I mean, it's aborting the baby, but especially given with the political environment that we're in right now of just what women are going through. But yeah, it's basically what it was. And the interesting part too is they told us that if we were any further along, that it would have to go through a board with the hospital to get approval because we were so far along. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, we had to wait for almost a week for that surgery, unfortunately.
So then when you come home, right, now you're left with your thoughts. And I know the challenges that women can go through, especially with hormones and everything. I mean, think about that first trimester of sickness, of nausea, of whatever it is that you might be experiencing, exhaustion. What emotions are you personally going through as a woman? Is it like, I did this for nothing? Like, where's the prize at the end of it? You know what I mean? Is there guilt? Is it like, is there peace that you're like at peace with the decision? You know, what were those feelings that you felt and how did you get through it at this first time?
Well, it was interesting because our scenario, like I said, we announced on social and I told Brad, I was like, I have to post something that this is no longer. Like I'm on calls for work and they're like, how's the baby doing? How's this? And it's just like, I'm not going to say anything on this call because I'm going to just start in tears. And so once I shared on social media, friends and family knew, and I was teaching fitness classes at the time. So just Baltimore is a very like small, close-knit community.
Okay.
So people in the public knew what happened to us. And an acupuncturist, Angie, reached out to me and said, listen, I heard about your story. I went through 2 to 3 miscarriages myself, and I would love to help you. And I didn't know then even what like postpartum was, you know, I've heard of it, but even just having a loss at 16 weeks, the hospital doesn't prepare you to say, this is what you're going to go through physically.
Correct. Your body was pregnant and now it's not.
Exactly. And so going back to your question, like going home, like it was it. That was it. And was just home with my thoughts. I didn't know what to do physically, mentally. And my coping mechanism was, I'm going to go back to work.
Yeah.
I'm just going to work.
Drown myself.
I'm going to drown myself with work. I don't have to think about any of this stuff that just happened to us. I did the same thing when my mom passed. I like went back to work 2 weeks later, packed up and traveled internationally and just, you know, did the thing. And this was something obviously was so much more different than losing a parent. And when I looked around, I like had other friends that were pregnant around the same time as me. They were moving forward. I just didn't know what to do. So the acupuncturist was like, here's what's going to happen. Here's what you need to do for your body. Like, you know, gave me some tips and tricks of how I can help myself in this postpartum phase. But I remember a moment going for a run, and I used to be proud. Like I was running when I was pregnant. I was with my dog, and I used to look down my stomach. And then it was that run that just hit me like after all this, that I was like, there's nothing. There's nothing there. Like, how did I go from carrying a baby to nothing? And somebody else who was in the community, she had a stillborn at 6 months, and she reached out to me and was like, I want you to talk to this therapist. Her name is Marianne, and I think she'll be great. And I look back and I should have gone to the therapist growing up, but never went to therapy before. And I, in the book, I opened up about my first appointment with her, and I sit on her couch, and I was so matter of fact of like what just happened to me. I'm like, I just had a baby loss, a pregnancy loss, and I'm back to work. I'm going to go back to teaching classes, and that's it. What do I need to do? Tell me the things. What do I need to check the list on to heal myself?
Help me.
And she's like, honey, it's gonna take time. Like, yeah, I think she knew what was going on. And then I opened up about losing my mom too, and she just realized like we need to unravel some things here. And so that, you know,
because really at that stage, and even with your mom at such an early age, right, your mentality was like, move on. Like, how do I just solve it and move on? You know what I mean? I'm not really dealing. And so now what's so sad about this, and I am not like, I feel like modern day where we're living now is like somewhat of like weak-minded individuals too. Like everything is so dramatic. It's all like, you have to do therapy. You're this privileged kid, and now you're doing therapy at 15 years old because God forbid you don't have food on your plate at the right time. You know what I mean? I think that our culture is just like therapy, like everything's the end of the world. But in the same breath, I'm also seeing these stories and these circumstances where our past generations were not dealing with what was going on.
Putting their head
and so you
driving.
have this interesting middle group of women who have gone through things that just were taught, hey, you just put your head down, keep moving.
Yeah.
and men as well. But to see someone like yourself who now it just hurts my heart, because like when you see someone like yourself who you went through this, you didn't deal with it, right? And then you get to a place where you're having something so precious for your family.
Yeah.
And you're not even able to deal with that properly, right? Or in the healthy way.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to hear that you're saying that, listen, in that therapy and that whoever suggested that was the moment of change for you. You know, you dealt with your mother, you dealt with what was going on with you physically, because it is true. It's like, I never did therapy until recently, until I had the kids, because I'm like, I don't even know what's going on in my head right now. I don't know what's happening. And so I'm an advocate for women in that space to deal with what's going on and learn the tools, right? To how to
navigate life.
Navigate what you're going through. So, okay, so fast forward, let's continue on with your story, because obviously more happened to make you write your book.
Whole women's health journey. So we got pregnant a year later, and that was a whole journey itself, where I feel like for women who are trying, you can't get pregnant, or if you have pregnancy loss, you feel like a crazy person. You're like testing for ovulation strips all the time. You're like, I can't eat this because I've been trying to get pregnant. Like, I just wasn't living life anymore. But we got pregnant again a year later. I had a miscarriage, less than 8 weeks. And then we got pregnant again, just a few months after that. And that pregnancy ended at 13 weeks. It was this thing called triploidy, where it's basically 2 sperm hit the same egg. It creates a whole extra set of chromosomes. It's like getting struck by lightning is what the woman told me. And we didn't realize that we were waiting on the genetic results, and we were at an ultrasound. I was there by myself because it was during COVID. It was like January 2021. March 2021. And she's looking at this. She's like, something doesn't look right with the heart. I'm like, here we go again. And at this point, you kind of get numb to it, and you kind of lose this joy in this exciting part when you're in this phase of, because after you go through a couple of losses or miscarriages, you can't go in hopeful looking at the ultrasound.
Right.
Yeah, you're just like, okay,
it is what it is.
What's
like,
going to
okay.
happen? And so that ended with another D&C, and that was a molar pregnancy, which is so odd, where you can basically, it could cause like a pregnancy cancer. So they're explaining this to me. I'm at the hospital. They're like, if this does come back as a molar pregnancy and cancer, you would have to wait for 6 months, and you have to go through basically chemo for this treatment.
A molar pregnancy.
Yeah.
So what is it? So is there a baby?
No, at this point, no. The baby's out. It's basically, how do I describe it? It's like basically a mass can come back. Like it's with like blood and a mass that could come back into the uterus. And so you constantly have to get your HCG levels checked because it could come back.
So basically you're like pregnant with no actual baby.
Not that part, but it's a type of pregnancy that you go through. We'll get into that because that happens. But so that was the third pregnancy. And then literally 2 months later, we get pregnant again.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, here we go. Go into the ultrasound. We have a blighted ovum, which is when you're pregnant and there's no fetus. So basically what you just described. I was just like, and
I'm sorry. So you got to explain this in depth.
A blighted ovum is basically like a chemical pregnancy where your body is pregnant, but nothing grown into a fetus in the uterus. So they're looking at, and I knew when they shown us the screen, I'm like, there's nothing. Yeah, at this point, you kind of know what you're looking at.
But you get like a positive pregnancy test and all of that.
Correct. Yeah.
And your body is producing
like the
hormones,
sac and all that.
And there's nothing. So from there, our genetic counselor just was like, Jamie, I know you've been through hell and back. Like, I don't even know what to say. And an interesting point was my acupuncturist at the time, she mentioned like, have you gotten your husband tested yet? And I'm like, no, I haven't. And nobody from the hospital has mentioned that. Yeah. I'm like, why not? And it's a thing. I don't understand why they don't, but you have to advocate for it. And so I did, and nothing came back for him. But after this fourth loss, I ended up having to take 2 abortion pills back to back to help pass everything, and not everything passed. So then it was like the third D&C I had to go through.
Wow.
And so at this point, I'm like, I'm done. Like, we just need to take a time out. We packed up, we moved to the beach for 6 weeks, and I just had to get out of Baltimore because I was like running into people. I was still very open about our story. And the wild thing is, when I even opened up about the first loss that we had, how many women came out of the woodwork of reaching out and saying, Jamie, I know what you're going through. We went through it ourselves. You know, I never talked about it. You know, we lost our baby at 10 weeks. Like, just so many different stories. And which really helped me at the time to realize, like, I wasn't alone, even though in our circle of friends, we are a close-knit group of friends, everybody was pregnant. Nobody went through something like this. And so as we were going through this journey, what I was doing was looking for support, looking for help. And it's all these pregnancy loss groups, which are on Facebook, and helpful at the time, but it just felt very negative and just hard. And I'm just a very optimist person that I was like, I just need to know how you got on the other side. Like, how'd you get through this? What steps did you take? What resources did you have? And I couldn't find anything. And so I decided for the summer just to take a break, take care of my body, because after the hormones and gain weight, you know, you're talking about the first trimester, like you're eating everything and anything to stay awake or not to feel nauseous. And I was just like, I don't even feel like I'm in my body anymore.
Yeah.
I don't even feel like myself.
You're like checked out. So, I mean, I'm just thinking of so many different questions. You mentioned, first thing is, you mentioned your husband. How did he deal with all of the losses?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what was his experience? Was he solely there to support you? Was he experiencing, you know, guilt or pain?
It's a great question.
Like, what was his thoughts?
It's a great question. And this comes up a lot, and it can go many different ways. But for Brad and I, you know, I think he was very thrown off by this too. I mean, we both were, because like I said, we were just like go-getters. This is what we got to do. And I think both of us were like, oh, wow, this is life. And he had a really good childhood, and he never been through like hard things growing up the way that I talked about my childhood. So this was very different for him.
Yeah.
And he was there for me, but it's different in a sense when the woman is going through it, because you're going through it physically.
Yeah.
And also mentally, where it's just constant. You blame yourself. What else? Like, what did I do wrong? What did I do to my body? Did I do something? Did I lift something too heavy? Was I working out too hard? You think of all these things, where for men, it's not that way. And he was helpful, and, you know, and he wanted us to like go out and be with friends. And I'm like, I just didn't want to be around anybody at times. And I love being around people. I love hosting people. And I just...
Very isolating.
It got very isolating. Yeah. Because I feel like that's all people talked about. And it wasn't like I wasn't not happy for them, but it was just hard. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah.
And then Naycha, I'm sorry, I don't know if you if you have a question, but I'm also piggybacking on, you mentioned these Facebook groups, right? And one thing that I also loved about what you said is the whole concept of our podcast. And this is the number one thing that I told Naycha early on, and just when we were going to kind of develop this, is that we're not here just to yap about, how hard life is, or this is the reality of being a woman, or whatever it is. It's more so of that space of encouraging and like, this is the reality, but how can we move forward? What are the tips? What are the tricks that people can do that we can all utilize for ourselves? So speaking of that, with those groups that you were seeing, what was the importance of community? And what type of community, and who was the person, who were the people who gave you like the answers to the test, right? And said, hey, Jamie, like, these are things that worked for me. You know what I mean? What was that like for you? Yeah, it was hard to find, and it was like just plucking the right people that just came to me. I had a pelvic floor PT. She's one of my dear friends now, Dr. Sam, and she helped me just physically because of, you know, your muscles, your hormones change, your joints change when you get pregnant. And so when you were talking about your back earlier, I'm like, yes, like all those things happen. Even if you don't have a baby on the other side, your body's still going through these things, but nobody prepares you for that. Like I mentioned, my acupuncturist again, my therapist, like all these women who were in the women's health field around me in Baltimore, like really came out of nowhere, but were placed in my life
so beautifully. And so they just really helped me get to, here's what you can do for yourself here. And then, somebody else might come into my DMs and say, hey, I actually talked to this person. I even went down the route. I worked with a tarot card reader as psychic because I was like, what? I don't know what else to do. Yeah, like, what do I do? Just tell me what the cards say.
Read my palms, please.
Yeah, right. Like but it was just helping you get grounded in that sense. But I think with community, to your point, I talk about the group of women who kind of do this walk. It's the shittiest club to be part of, but it's the best people because we know what it's like. We know when you're in it, how to help each other. Also, people will say things to you when you do lose a baby. It's like, oh, well, it'll happen when it will happen. Like, at least you can get pregnant. And it's like, those are the things you just don't say to people who are in it. And as family members were saying this to me, just having those friends or those people in that community who've been through it, just know what it was like. And to have that outlet, or to talk about our husbands of like, they just don't understand how this just keeps running through my mind, how I blame myself. And, it's so different. So I felt like at times I kind of built my own community at times because of the way that I would talk about it on social media and the conversations I was having online with them, more like one-on-one. And I met Dr. Cleopatra. She has a program called the Primester. And she helps women get pregnant, and she talks about, women 35 and older getting pregnant and getting their chances higher. And she's got a beautiful community of women too. So when I joined her program, that was another great outlet. And she's just such a positive light. You have to check her out. Like, she is just an angel, and her spirit is just incredible. But she has built a really beautiful community that I was like, yes, like this felt very optimistic, but also provided resources and things along the way. Yeah.
Oh, I do love that. And I feel like that kind of goes back to, we all need community. Community is what helps us get through the hard challenges. Like, yes, you are your own person, but building that community, because having that resources, because you can have people around you in a sense that have no idea what you're going through. So you do feel a little bit alone, isolated. But being that you've been so vocal and you're reaching out, now you have all these other people that, like the Me Too's, like, listen, I've been there, I've done that. This is what I've done to get through it. And it kind of gives you that hope, in a sense. And I have some statistics here, and because it's very interesting, because they says that like 15 to 20% of women who suffer a pregnancy loss face like depression and anxiety throughout their life, right? But then it even says like 25% of the women are referred out to something with mental health.
Yeah.
Like that's something that's talked about. It's kind of like all right, well, this happened to you. I'm so sorry for your loss. Here's a tissue, and you can go about your your day. You can go to work. Good luck. Like, it's like it's not as, talked about or harped on in a sense of like, you're going through this. Let me sit down and let me bring in a mental health therapist right now. So we can just chit chat. You can be like more aware of what your options may be in a sense of dealing with it. So since you've been through so much, I feel like you've come out pretty strong.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
What are some things that what's like some key advice you would give to a woman who's navigating something like this currently?
Yeah. I guess the one thing I will say, it's, when I talk about the journey of this, I never want it to seem like it's not hard. It is hard. It is so hard. And when you're in the thick of it, and especially when you're surrounded by people who are like thriving with their babies and that's all you see, and you're just constantly, I felt like I would go to the park and walk in the park in Baltimore, and I would see every pregnant woman walking in the park, and I'm like, really? And I would it just hits you so hard. But for the woman who's in it, is just surround yourself with people who cheer you on in a proper way, who are not just brushing it off. If they're able to, find the resources, self-care was like the biggest thing for me. I'm like, to my husband, I'm like, there's no self-care budget right now, okay? We're not budgeting for this category right now. Because you feel so out of your body. You feel so out of control.
Out of control, I can imagine.
Yeah. And it's like, if you can take care of yourself, like I would go to the infrared sauna, I would go get a facial, just something, or spiritually, you know, just to get myself grounded was so important in those days. I mean, it still is now. I feel like motherhood after pregnancy loss is another whole chapter, but it's really important to like go back into what kept you grounded, what kept you going, and finding those pieces that really ground you, because you can go through these like dark holes of mental health or blaming yourself for your body. And unfortunately, that a lot of people in the medical care system, you know, are not as compassionate. I feel fortunate that I had a few of those women in our hospital group that were so compassionate and knew our story and would come in and say, Jamie, you don't know me, but I know you, and I've heard about what's happened to you, and I'm so sorry you're here again. You know, like just
That
hearing
gives me
those
like
words,
the chills, to be honest, because it's like, oh, it's like you would want somebody to have that type of support.
Yeah.
When they're going through something so tough, so hard, something that people usually would never even experience.
Exactly. And I have a lot of friends right now who are going through IVF, and it's like they feel like a number at these facilities. And it just breaks my heart. And I just wish sometimes, I know this is a job for a lot of these people in the medical field, but I hope they realize like these are people's dreams and hopes of having a family, and it's just not a number for them, and how to really come to the table with compassion, or to do, you know, I feel like when they go to medical school, they don't get trained properly to how to handle these scenarios anymore, or what resources they can do. But I hope they take it upon themselves to do that work.
I want to know, Jamie, now that you've told us your story with all of, you know, the 4 losses, what is, right, because there's a positive, motherhood like after loss? And tell me about the inspiration that I'm going to write this book. Right?
Yeah.
What's that like now? And what was the process of conceiving and all of that good stuff?
Yeah. So now we have 2 beautiful children. Adley just hit 2 in July, and then Carter's 8 months. But like having Adley, we could get pregnant. It was just, we couldn't have a healthy pregnancy. And so literally, as we got through the summer, I was like, we're doing IVF. I cannot stay pregnant for 3 months and then get bad news anymore. So I started going through the IVF journey where you get tested, the whole 9 yards. And literally a month or so into it, I found I was pregnant again. And I was like, all right, here we go. Here we go again. You know, I told the doctor, she's like, well, we're just going to bring you in for weekly scans just to give you peace of mind so we can monitor you. And so that's what we did. And then we got to week 10. You kind of graduate from the IVF clinic once you hit week 10 or 12, and went back to our doctors at University of Maryland, and, you know, kept plugging along, holding our breath at each appointment. And then we got to 20 weeks, and it was, you know, the anatomy scan, and that was like a whole journey itself. Like every appointment, like my husband and I wouldn't talk to each other in the car. Like we were just complete silent in these, like leading up to these appointments. And you know, I think that was such a relief where people are like, oh my God, are you so relieved? And I'm like, yes, but I need to make sure she gets here on the other side. And happy to say that we didn't have to go through IVF fully with her. It was just the testing. And I feel very lucky that we didn't have to go through that process. And it's hard. But I had a healthy, easy pregnancy with Adley. She was born July 22. And then she was probably about 10 months. And my husband were like, if it happens again, great. But like, we're not trying. I was tracking every single detail before. And, May of last year, I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, all right, well, you know how this goes. We'll see what happens. Like, not going to hold my breath, you know, like I said, just kind of robs that joy after going through this sort of journey. And got through the summer and, you know, got to the halfway point. I'm like, oh my God, we're going to have a boy. All right, 20-week appointment. It still is holding your breath into these appointments. And then the kicker with Carter was my appendix erupted at 36 weeks.
Oh my God.
So this was during Christmas time.
Jeez.
And we had the norovirus. So I think that just kind of disrupted the system a little bit. And I kept saying, I'm like, I have this pain on my right side. I can't walk. Like I have a high pain tolerance, And then I was having contractions. I went to the hospital twice. And then they're like, you're just dehydrated. Your uterus is activated, like just aggravated right now. And the third time I'm like, I'm not leaving this place. Something is not right. And I called my aunt from Delaware. She sat at the hospital with me, and they almost sent me home for gas. And I'm like, this is not gas. This is not gas. The midwife came in, pressed on my side. I lost it. And they were like, okay, your appendix is erupted. We're going to have to do immediate surgery. We don't know if we're going to have to deliver your son or if we can proceed. Luckily, the surgery team came in and said, we think we can work around him. We're going to move forward with the surgery, try to get your appendix out and keep him as long as we can inside. That surgery went from an hour to 4 hours plus because my appendix was so mangled. And at that time I was so sick that I just didn't realize how bad it was. And like what I knew, like I think I just kind of blacked it out because I was so scared something bad was going to happen this far along. Cause you just kind of know too much at this point, you know? And I was able to keep him inside until we got induced, and he was born in January of this year. And that postpartum for that one was a whole different scenario than Hadley. And it's just wild of that ride. But yeah, we have 2 beautiful little humans right now. And motherhood with that, with your question of motherhood after pregnancy loss. I was talking to my therapist about this the other day. I was like, I feel like at times I go to the worst case scenario of something happening to the kids. And she's like, I think because of the trauma you've been through, not just with the kids, but growing up, you've had some traumatic things happen that it's normal for you to have these thoughts where I try not let the anxiety come in, but how to work through it. Because there's times like even just traveling out to here, I'm like, okay, what happens if something happens to me? What happens something with the kids and I'm not here? And all these things. But you just have to talk yourself off the ledge a bit on that. And just the practices from therapy to, like I said, how do you get yourself grounded and working on your mental health is such a key part into this journey. And
so when did you decide to write your book?
Oh, the book.
Tell everybody what the book is called. I know you're going on a book tour.
The book is called The Losses We Keep, Our Journey of Fertility, Loss, and Never-Ending Hope. So kind of going back to the theory of when I was going through it myself, I just felt like there was no optimism and it was just like hard and dark. And I'm like, I need that hope. I need that light. Somebody give me that light. And with the book, I was sitting with my postpartum doula and on the couch, and we were holding my daughter and we were having a conversation, and we were just like, can't believe we're here. And she's like, Jamie, you really need to share your story. And I'm like, she's like, it sounds like a memoir. I'm like, no way, get out of here. I'm not a writer. I like to just have conversations. I like to present. And it just was something inside of me that I was like, maybe, I've always shared on social, like this could be a maybe. And I don't know what the book publishing process looks like or anything. I have no idea. And then few months after that, into the new year of 23, I met with a friend, and it was kind of like a blind date. Like we didn't know each other. Our friend set us up. She's in the PR world, and we were just talking about what are some of our goals for 23. We went deep fast together. And I was like, I really want to write a book about our pregnancy loss story, just because I feel like more and more people are talking about it, but women's health in general is kind of this thing that people are slowly talking about, but it's under-resourced and under-supported. And I just want to drive awareness to it. Like, I want people to realize that, it's not just so black and white of these stories. Like, sometimes you don't have an option, but like how tough it can be. And she put me in touch with this woman, Jessica Buchanan. She owns Soul Speak Press. It's basically just a non-traditional publishing company. She supports just women in telling storytelling. And so I met with her, and that was early summer of last year, and then had a conversation with her, met her, and I just said, I have this idea that I want to talk about our pregnancy loss journey, but I know my story is just one, and it's really important to talk about other people and include them. And she's like, what about an anthology? And I'm like, I like that.
Very cool.
Community has always been something that has kept me grounded in my journey from a kid playing sports all the way up to now. And I was like, yes. And I just realized I was 12 weeks pregnant with Carter. And I'm like, I don't even know how this is going to go. I was like, I think this book will either help me get through it either way, and we'll figure it out. And she's like, are you sure you're okay with this? If, like if we're planning to launch this next year, like your son is going to be a newborn. Are you sure? I'm like, yes, we're going to do this. Cause if I don't do it now, then there's always going to be excuse. And so, yeah, we have 8 contributing other authors, 9, including me, anything from women who've been through the IVF process to ovarian cancer, surrogacy. I mean, the stories that you will read in this book, one of them will probably resonate with somebody who's been going through this process, and just giving them the ways that they've had hope and healing in their life. And hopefully that gives them some of that into their journey and that unexpected journey to motherhood.
How was that documenting your journey while carrying your son? Like, there has to be some sort of like sentimental feeling, you know what I mean? While you're like writing about your baby, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And your just eagerness for motherhood, you know what I mean? While you're carrying a baby again, like that's the concept. I can't even imagine.
It was special.
Yeah.
And not knowing what was going to happen. Like I said, I think because of the PTSD that we had of like being pregnant and not working out, it just was like, I just need to keep going with this. I need to trust my intuition. That process actually surprised me. I would get up at 5 a.m., 4:30 in the morning to write, because during the day it's like work, it's kids. My brain is too scattered.
Yeah.
So mornings were my like writing time. And we actually started the writing process right after I had Carter. But talking about the book concept to the publisher and talking through it, like, I was pregnant with Carter. And then appendix happened. So I'm like, we need to push the deadline back.
Oh my gosh.
And the cool part about the anthology, and I thought about the balance of it, was like, I only had to write like a snippet about my story.
Right.
I wasn't writing the whole story, from all of it. And same thing for the other women too. It's just like a snippet of their story. And so what I wrote about was actually, about the 4 losses, but then having Adley in that process and doing the writing. Like, I found myself crying in the middle, like in the 4:30 in the morning. I've talked about our story, but writing it and reliving it.
It's like therapy.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like your own personal therapy.
Yeah. I just was so surprised of that process. It just took me very unexpected of that. Like, my husband couldn't, like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. I'm just writing. It's fine. I'm okay. It's like 5 a.m. It's fine. Everything's fine.
I mean, it just attests to the strength of a woman, you know what I mean? And I'm just in awe of the endurance, that you've had, because it's easy for someone to give up, and just say, it's just, I met someone the other day that I said, oh, your mom? She's a dog mom. And she says, yeah, just only a dog mom just because I have fertility issues, so we're not going to have kids. And so it's really remarkable to see that now you have these 2 miracle little babies, right, who are just so precious. And just to see how much you've overcome.
Thank you.
And so that's a testament to you and your mental strength, and a testament to what we were talking about earlier of our bodies, you know what I mean, and what they can actually go through.
It's your vessel.
But I can't even, I'm just thinking about so much stuff, because it's like, not only that level, it's like there's these failures, right? And your mindset of not being optimistic or hopeful, because it's not only saying like, oh, just, we just had a miscarriage, just didn't work out. We're talking about you're having this information and knowledge of these very rare cases of pregnancies and things that could happen. So of
random.
Course, going into a 36-week appendix situation, you're like, is this the rarest form of, you're like, what's going on?
I'm like, why me? Like, and that was the framework. A lot of times, like, why does this keep happening to me? And there was times where I'm just like, okay, I just have to say, why is this happening for me? Like, and you have to like repeat it to it just indents into your brain. But there was many of times where I'm like, why the hell me?
Do you know if it's genetic? Like, is it like something that, like what, like, why can someone have several miscarriages?
And not only that, but it be like
random things. And that was the hard part. Like, it's like, there was nothing broken. Like, what are we going to fix here? Like, we've done all the genetic testing. I'm healthy, I'm fit. What's going on here?
So weird.
Genetically, that's a great question. I'm sure there's some science. Dr. Cleopatra probably will like stat me all over the place on this, but generally I don't think there is. And that was the wild part, because my aunt and I were talking about this the other day of like, why is this happening like with our generation of cousins? And when like her, my mom, and that side of the like that generation really didn't have that, and so it's like, why is this happening? It's weird, and but that goes back to women's health. It's like, you know, we can send CEOs to the moon, and men can do other things, and it's like women's bodies. I don't know, like I don't know why this keeps
Nobody
happening.
knows what's happening.
Like really, hopefully that changes. But yeah, just really questioning of like how much women's health knowledge do we know, and like even growing up. That, you know, like I said, I never thought in a million years this is like what it would look like. And it can. And it's just like, I hope for women growing up, I hope we do a better job of educating our girls and letting them know, you know, not as far as what we've been through, but, you know, at least a baseline of it, because it's like growing up, you guys know, it's like what we were taught. It was just not useful for where we are now, especially like postpartum into perimenopause.
Yeah, because I don't
like,
even think that they really had the tools and knowledge to even
yeah,
give to
our
us.
moms.
So it's like now we're looking at it and we're going through it and we're like, I think that this is, you know, not the way that I need to go about this because it's not working for me.
Yeah.
But, okay, so I do want to ask you, there's a couple couple differences that we've seen on TikTok. Of course.
Popular right now.
Do you know, are you familiar with the difference between IVF and IUI?
Yeah.
So I've never even heard about IUI, by the way.
Me either until today.
Yeah, I've had a few friends. I mean, when we start going through the IVF process, they kind of present like, here's the scenarios that you're going to go through once you get through the testing. Because like even through the testing, they flush out your tubes. Basically, they like shove the saline like through your uterus. It's like the worst burn for 30 seconds, but just to make sure there's like nothing blocking, and you go through all this testing beforehand. So with IVF, that's typically what you see with in vitro, and you know that's when they track within your cycle. You have to basically have hormones injected in you. That's where you see needles. With IUI, insemination, that's basically where they track your cycle, but they basically take the sperm and track it at the time and then put it in you for that timing to get pregnant.
When you're ovulating.
Yeah. Yeah. So they can time it like perfectly.
So would you say it's like more natural?
Yeah, like less invasive maybe?
Less invasive because your body's not pumping up with hormones to prepare your body like you go through IVF. The crazy part about IVF, I will say, which a lot of people don't realize, like you only have a 30% chance of success rate with IVF. I forget what IUI is. I've had friends who've done it a couple of times, didn't have success. And then typically what you'll see at clinics too is with insurance, because, you know, medical insurance is an interesting thing too. A lot of times clinics make you go through IUI first before you start the in vitro process to see if that will work. And some insurance ask you to go through it twice. So it's like, all right, now if you're waiting and you're trying and all the things, now you got to go through this process. Like there's these stages of it. And then I've had friends who went through IUI and had success. I have a friend that had both her babies through IUI, and she's got 2 babies as well. Wow. But you know, I feel fortunate we didn't have to go through that process, you know, but we were in the works of it. But
no, you just had to go through a much harder process.
Crazy things. I mean, IVF, I have a couple of friends with IVF right now. And one of my dear best friends is in her 3rd round. And it's like she had her son totally fine. And maybe he came a month early, but now they're going through IVF and she can't get, like, nothing's working and we don't know why. And this is kind of going back to the question of like, if nothing's wrong, how do we fix these things?
The root cause.
And then another thing is one of the women in the book, she had her daughter totally fine, had a great healthy pregnancy, had a very hard delivery that it caused scar tissue in her uterus. They tried for their second. I don't know if you guys are in this group of friends going for their second, but having second infertility where they maybe had their first kid totally fine, but now going for a second and they can't get pregnant or having multiple miscarriages or losses. And this woman who's in the book, Amanda, she talks about her journey of having her son where she went through almost 5 rounds of IVF to have her second child, and got to a point where a doctor was like, you're not going to be able to hold a pregnancy. You have so much scar tissue that your body can't hold a pregnancy properly. And that's why you can't, it's not working. And she decided then she was going to go through a surrogate, and now has her a son. And but in the book, she talks about that process, and very much of, I had a healthy first pregnancy with Lucy, and now why is this happening, and how she went through that process. So
I have a cousin who I actually don't know. I most of the miscarriages I know, they just have the miscarriage and then their kids and then it's fine. But I do have a cousin who had 2 babies, had a miscarriage, and then now is having another baby right now. And I remember her thinking, like, because she had the healthy pregnancies, she's thinking to herself, like, what the heck did I do wrong? Like, oh my gosh, something and so she put so much guilt on herself, because she's like, it should have been healthy. Like, everything else was healthy. I must have done something. I was doing, and so for a long time she was like questioning herself, and they,
I'm sure everybody's like, don't stress.
Yeah,
it's making it worse. Don't stress. You're like, okay, you don't want me to stress? Like, I can't get pregnant. I'm having these losses, like, telling me not to stress. Like, that's another, like, on the list. Don't say to a woman who's going through it. Yeah.
I want to know I want to know what your answers are, and what are the right things to say to women, because that's so important to me, because oftentimes it's like, when you don't go through something,
you don't know how to necessarily respond.
Sometimes I just don't have the words, and I just say, hey, I'm going to pray for you.
You're kind of like left baffled.
If you need anything, reach out. Like that kind of thing, because you don't want to step on toes. You know what I mean? But what are?
But you want to be there for them.
Things? Yeah. Like, what are things that you should say?
Yeah.
Or not to say.
Or not to say. More like it these days. I think the biggest thing, what I realized when I was going through it, and friends who reached out to me who may not have been going through it, they're just like, I haven't been through what you're going through, and I'm sorry, but I'm here for you. If you need to go for a walk, I've had friends that would just randomly send me like a Venmo to go get a coffee by myself, or to get me something special, to just to kind of help work through it. If it was like a crystal and they were just like a meaning or something. So sometimes that really helped me in the moment, where
just like, I'm thinking about you.
Yeah, just I'm thinking about you. And I think it's hard for friends who haven't been through it, because to your point, you're like, I don't want to upset them. I don't want to say the wrong thing. So I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to act like that nothing happened. And I think that's hard. That's hard too. Like, you have a friend that you're close with that's going through this hard thing, and you want to be there for them, but they're feeling isolated already. It's like already, I would say it's like 90% of women who are going through a loss already feel like they can't talk about it. But then, 40% of them already, like, they avoid situations, social settings. And that was one thing. Like, I used to get upset with friends who didn't invite me to baby showers. But then when they did invite me, like, I was like, oh, do I have to go? Sometimes you're never going to win. I'm going to just be honest. There was days that, like, when I had friends who told me they were pregnant, who told me, and I'm glad they did tell me, but then, like, I would be upset. But then when people didn't tell me, I'm like, well, what the hell? Why wouldn't they tell me? It's just dependent on the day. But I would say, if you're a friend who has somebody in their life who's going through this process, it's just send them things that you're thinking about them, go for a walk with them, just be there. Just be there to listen. And just never know what kind of emotion that they're going through that day. And if they're going through IVF, if they're going through a loss, whatever it may be, books were always helpful. The Journey to the Heart, it's a meditation book. It's, somebody gave that to me, and that was just helpful, because it was like day to day.
I love that name, by the way.
Journey to the Heart. Yeah.
I'm about to put that in my notes.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I was interested in that, because I went through a situation where I got pregnant with Cruz, and I could not believe it. I was shocked. And at the same time, my girlfriend was pregnant, and she went through a crazy health scare. I mean, one of the craziest health scares I've ever seen in my life. And she was pregnant, and so she lost the baby because she was so sick.
Yeah.
And such a blessing, when she woke up, I remember feeling like, there's no way I can tell her that I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, and I remember we were in a group chat, I'm like, hey, I don't want to say anything, and this is this. And they're like, well, And luckily, she's a very logical attorney. And she was like, I'm so happy for you, but it was, it's our close group.
So hard.
And I remember thinking like, I don't
rub her.
Don't want to, you know what I mean? Like,
ruffle any of her emotions.
Because that's a challenge,
It is. And if I would say as a friend, if you're the person, like, just don't take it personally if they're having a tough time with it. Like, when we lost our first baby, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law told us they were pregnant. And they told us through a text like a month after. And I knew it was hard for them, but at the moment I was so pissed that they texted us and didn't call us. And it was just like little things like that and then my husband's like, James, it's not their fault. Like, it just having somebody else to talk to.
Having that support system is important.
Yeah. And it wasn't their fault,
Tell me to my face.
Yeah. Right. It was so hard. But yeah, just being there for them and just being honest with them. I think because I felt like for me, it was harder when people hid it from me.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm already going through this, like for my friends not to have to tell me things, like it sucked.
Now I'm even more isolated.
Yeah.
Okay. I have one more question and then we want to do like a cute little game.
Okay.
I don't know if it's cute, but just like a little game. Okay. But I do want to ask you, especially in LA, this is a common and popular thing that women are scheduling C-sections. They're getting IVF for colored eyes, sex of the baby, like building a baby.
What?
She's like, what are you talking about? I never
This
heard
is
this
a very
before.
common thing that's going on. Like they are picking these babies out.
Oh my word.
So
That's
now that this is
interesting.
news to you,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts going through everything that you've gone through and using IVF as a tool to have a baby
This is insane.
rather than like, hey, let's go to the factory.
Yeah.
Let's pick out our choices.
Wow. It kind of breaks my heart. It's just like when you've been through it and you sometimes don't have a choice, like this is your only choice or a chance.
Yeah.
And like I said, only 30% chance. And that's if you can afford it. Because if you have a job that can cover, they only cover a certain amount of times. And then, I've had friends that are going into debt because they're just trying so hard to have a baby and, they have to cover it. It's like 15, to 20 grand a pop.
For 30%.
For
30% chance.
If you're lucky.
With asking for a miracle.
That's 70% chance.
And then if
that
you
it
even
won't
think
work.
about surrogacy or adoption, like that's other processes and procedures and how long that takes. It's just, it like really boggles my mind and like hurts my heart because there are people, I even feel privileged that I was able to have the resources that I could afford to help me get through those hard times and to even make a choice to say, okay, if we go through IVF, I don't have insurance that's going to cover this. But we're able to pay for this. And so many people don't have that option.
Yeah.
And so to hear that, like really.
So many people, this is like a very common thing that's
Wow.
being said to me is like, because, we have the 3 boys.
Yeah.
And my husband is one of 9 and his mom he's from Texas.
Oh my word.
He's
God bless his mom.
country fed. And his mom had 5 boys before she had a girl. So there's 6 boys, 3 girls, 5 boys before she had the girl. And plenty of his cousins, they all have boys. It's just a heavy testosterone family.
Yeah.
And so everyone's like, what? Why don't you just go do IVF to make sure you get the girl?
Wow.
And I'm like, no, and I'm thinking to myself, if I do, which I'm not getting pregnant
Kinda going
again,
against natural
but if I
selection.
were to ever get pregnant again, I just feel like it's just going against like,
Natural selection.
for me, I just feel like it's going against, God. I just feel like if he wants me to have 4, 5, 6, 7 boys, then
That's
it.
That's
what
I'm
we got.
blessed with these boys, and
know what I
that's
mean?
it. Yeah.
Or the 3 boys, or my 1 boy, whatever it is. I just say like, hey, that's it. I'm not going to just force something on just to make sure I get my girl. Which I would love to have. I don't want any more kids. I keep making that
this
clear.
very clear.
But I would
No
have
more
loved to have a
kids.
girl.
Yeah,
Sure.
I know.
But no. It's just funny. But anyways, it's just I was
That's
wondering
wild,
what your
yeah.
take on is because for someone like yourself who
Who's
really
been through so much.
need that for something.
And I'm just one story. I
sometimes,
mean, there's so many women who go through so many more. Like another woman from our book, she had 2 miscarriages before her son had Camden. I want to say had 2 or 3 more miscarriages, and her last pregnancy, she had to abort at 12 weeks because the baby had Down syndrome, and she was like, for me, my family, I can't do this because of the financial needs for my son. And, and she basically just had to decide, like, I can't I can't try this anymore. And so to like see somebody who has accepted that, and I'm so proud of Sarah because that's a hard decision to say, okay, I'm healed. I'm okay with this decision. But to hear people to like,
welcome to LA.
Yeah.
Welcome.
But yeah, but just put it in perspective, it just like in the world of people who are dealing with so much right now in women's health and especially in reproductive rights right now, women are getting arrested for having an abortion or having a miscarriage. I just reposted today, Emily in your phone, she has an Instagram account and she posted today that the woman was arrested for basically because she had a miscarriage. I want to say 16 weeks. She was in college and they basically put her in jail. Like it's unbelievable the stories that we're seeing right now. And so to hear that, it's like,
wow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Okay.
Sorry.
Peanut Gallery, we got the game.
Peanut Gallery, put the game up.
So we stalked your Instagram.
Okay.
So you cannot look at the prompt over here. You have to keep your eyes straight over here. Keep your eyes on the prize. But we stalked your Instagram and we want to go over 2 posts. And I just want you to recall back to see if you can remember the post and kind of give your thoughts on it. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is the first one. It's a carousel post. And you say, I tried to appear unbothered by the fact that all my friends were pregnant and starting their families. And then on the second one, you said, I always wanted to stop, but I could somehow always talk myself into getting to the next mile. Almost there, Jamie, don't give up. That's how I had been managing up until this 4th miscarriage. So give us a little insight on where your mind was when you posted this, when you wrote these quotes.
Yeah.
And like a time, like what time you were at in your life. What was that?
So I just recently posted that one because it was for the book. So I'm like, yep, I know exactly which one. That is just a slice of my chapter that I talked about how we left Baltimore, we moved to the beach. The 4th pregnancy that was the blighted ovum where it was like my body was pregnant, but there was no fetus. Since I was a kid, I've always been this go-getter and always kept going and achieving and doing the things and kind of like a perfectionist, A-type personality where that moment made me realize that like, I can't, and I was a marathon runner before all these pregnancies. I used to run marathons and ultra marathons and it just made me realize how much this journey felt like a marathon. And that 4th pregnancy, just getting the news and then going through that whole process of the miscarriage, it felt like mile 21 on the marathon field of like, you're almost to the finish line. I'm like about to pass out. My legs are so heavy. Like I'm like trying to tell myself one more step. Finish line's almost there. But for that point where I was like, I'm scared to tell people I'm giving up right now. Yeah. And I don't know where this finish line, if I'm ever going to see this finish line, I don't know what's going to look like because I don't have control of this moment. Where in a marathon, you're running, a little bit different on the track than the marathon. And I mean, the track is a whole different thing. But that's how my body felt physically and mentally at that point where it was just like another thing of bad news. And I just don't know if I'm ever going to see this finish line ever.
Well, I can tell you that I've only gone up to about 3 or 4 miles, and I know how hard that feels. So I can imagine about 21. And when I really we were talking about it, the perseverance that you obviously have. Yeah. And I'm so excited for all of our listeners to see you, hear you, because I'm sure so many women are going through the same or have gone through the same thing and trying to navigate it. Yeah. I'm really excited and thankful for how open you have been.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Because I cannot even imagine, going through that hardship. Yeah. Pregnancy in itself is challenging.
Yeah.
Yet alone to experience the miscarriage and just the constant hospital appointments and really, truly remarkable. So
thank you.
Your story and putting in perspective of like those challenges, but to see how you've overcome is just incredible.
100%.
Truly.
You can really learn from a lot. But I have a question. Do you still run?
I'm trying to get back to it. So because of the appendix surgery and postpartum, my back has been like so out of whack. But I did get a double bob stroller, and I'm so stoked. And I'm like, we are gonna run with this thing. We're gonna get after it. My damn daughter won't sit in the stroller.
Oh no.
So she just doesn't want to sit.
She's a wiggly worm.
You're gonna run with me, huh?
Yeah.
Come on.
So, and I'm slowly I would love to get back into training and I felt like an athlete again when I was training for marathons because I hit the track.
Let me tell you, I just started playing tennis, and I'm like, oh, this is like my inner athlete. I love this. Ooh.
Oh, you need it.
I've been doing pickleball.
Oh yeah, pickleball. Somebody else like, do you want to do some? I'm like, I need that competitive nature just to come out again. Like I'm like, do I play field hockey for a rec league? But it's
that's what I was gonna say. Join a rec league.
Yeah, I'm like, oh God, we had our alumni game, and I was like, I'm not ready for this yet. Absolutely not.
No, honestly, I have to say, and you're like just a bit behind me. I'll say it's so funny. Alexis asked me the other day, my trainer. She's like, so how's your body feeling? And Cruz is 13 months now. And I'm like, man, I feel really good. I'm feeling great. Like I can lateral lunge now. I can do this. I said, then again, I don't remember how it feels. I've never gone over a year without being pregnant again.
It's been so long. You're like, I forget.
Yeah. I'm like, I guess that's how it feels after a year, you know? I'm like, feeling good. And then I went to go play pickleball the other day, and I was like, okay, I still need a little work. Like I'm feeling, you know, just those movements alone.
Yeah.
But it is nice to get active again,
Feels
you know,
good.
and after babies.
But it's like, I don't know, starting the foundation, that's the thing you're asking about running. Like it feels good to be a beginner again, you know, and just kind of starting and being proud of yourself for the progress. I love that phase of it too, where I'm like, okay, I've been doing a ton of Pilates.
Yeah.
I love Pilates.
Nice.
Oh, that is so good.
So good.
I'll be
so
shaking
good.
in my boots.
Oh, it gets you.
Oh,
You don't
my
realize
goodness,
it. You're like, oh, this
no.
is gonna be cake. I'm so used to lifting heavy weights.
That
And like,
slow
joke's on you,
movement.
sister.
I'll be in there like holding on for dear life. I'm looking around for everybody, and I'm a trainer too. So like,
Yeah.
I went in there thinking like,
I'm gonna own
I
this.
got this.
Yeah.
I'm over here like shaking. I'm looking at everybody like, oh, y'all are doing this shit with ease and grace.
And great.
I cheat. I always go in the back reformer, and everyone's, I'm like, take a break.
Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, just being a beginner again, and then just feeling like a new normal and just getting back into it. I was like listening because you were talking about your routine and nutrition and all those pieces. Like that's it too. You know, when you're busy and you're just trying to like get back grounded again and just feel back in yourself. Like test.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I will say in this process of postpartum and getting back, like get your hormones checked. I don't know if you gotten your hormones.
I have not
Yes.
yet, but I want to get my blood drawn.
yes.
And
I
want
have a
to get all
company
my
for you.
hormones over.
We can talk
Please.
about that. Yeah, she's focusing on postpartum and perimenopause and like all the tests that you need to get done. Like there's a stool
love
test,
that.
blood work, and the cortisol test, which I did the other day.
I'm interested in the cortisol. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's helpful to see like all those things because the other thing I didn't say is like in that every time I got pregnant, my thyroid would triple. Like the numbers would double, triple. And that has never been like highlighted, you know, through this pregnancy process of like, hey, let's look at your hormones. Let's see what's going on with them. But when I was not pregnant, my thyroid was fine. So we have no idea if that was the cause of what happened, but it's just good. Women, get your hormones checked because
That's great.
No, I
agree.
agree 1000% because that can really halt a lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I'm sure you
take
see
you
it
on
as a trainer. Yeah.
take you on a journey for
Yeah.
sure. We talk about it a lot. All right, so what are your three for you? What is the three things that get you back to yourself that you do now?
Being around friends, like having conversation. I love that social outgoingness. That's just who I am. So that's
When's your birthday?
October 22nd. I'm a Libra.
Ooh, I like you.
I'm in
up.
season.
I like
I'm
you.
in
You're in
season.
season.
Yes, it's our season. Working out. I have to move my body, even if I've been doing like 30 minutes in my garage, just moving my body, like doing Pilates on the mat. And, you know, I just have to do something to move my body. And then just something with my family to feel that connection. I think growing up, I didn't have that tight-knit group of family. And that's just something that I've always told like as my value, that's what I need. And just to feel grounded and present because we can get caught up in the day-to-day, the job stuff and, you know, all these things. And it's important to just stay grounded in that. Yeah, it's beautiful.
I love that. Well, before we end, I want to give you the opportunity to let everybody know where they can find you, where they can get your book, when you'll be on tour, all of that good stuff.
Yeah,
so they
thank you.
can
Thank you
track your
again
journey.
for having me here. So you can find me at Jamie Crist on TikTok and with Instagram. For the book, The Losses We Keep is going live on October 23rd, and that will be on Amazon. There's no pre-sale because we want to hit Amazon bestsellers. So we will keep you posted so you can find more information on Instagram and from there. And then for the book tour, we're doing a book launch event on October 24th in Baltimore, so in my home city, which feels right. And then we're going to head to New Jersey, Montclair, New Jersey. There's a place called Loopwell. And it's this like beautiful health center. She's got state-of-the-art kitchen. It's just a stunning, beautiful wellness space. So we'll be there October 30th. And then we're planning out dates for Cleveland and Columbus because we have an author out there, probably the first week in November. And then we'll probably put it on hold during the holidays because it's the holidays. And then we'll hopefully, because this conversation doesn't stop.
No, it's never going to stop.
You know, I thought with the book launch, it's Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and that was a big reason why I wanted to launch it then. But, you know, in the beginning of the year, it's like, how do we, women's health and having this conversation and driving awareness to women's reproductive rights, like this is what we have to do to continue this conversation.
Going to keep evolving,
Yeah. I would love to do an edition 2 of this book to keep stories going and to allow women to have a platform to share and to heal.
Yeah.
So that's the hope for this. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I'm sure you can do it. And please just remember to send us all of your dates, any tour dates, any other information. We'd love to continue to share it. And
thank you both.
It's when I just tell you, it's just such a pleasure to have someone that's so willing to be upfront and open and honest. Because I know women, we'll deal with things behind closed doors, you know, and that's the whole point. Again, like I said, of our Me Again podcast.
It's such a important topic, and the theme of what you two are building here is so key. And I'm waiting for you two to go on tour. So you just let me know.
We'll be in Baltimore.
Let's do it. Just because it's just, I feel like, especially like on social platforms, you see these women are like, everything's perfect, everything's ready, and you know, like, I'm so happy to be a mom. Of course, we're happy to be moms, but it's like, you gotta be you, and that's so grounded. Like I said, when I was listening to your episode with Holly, I was like, I'm like, does she want to be my mentor? She's amazing.
She's got the answers.
And it just felt so good to be heard, like just to be seen because of the conversation that you two drove with her. And so I'm so thankful that you two brought her here and to bring that conversation to light, because it's so important, because you feel bad. Like, it's just, you feel bad as a mom. Like, is it
just me? Am I the only one thinking this?
Yeah.
Does other moms think this? I'm going to look bad. I'm going to look like a bad person if I even say this. Yeah. It's like we start tiptoeing around our own feelings, so then you start pushing them down, and you're just like, you're bulldozing ahead until you explode.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressures of motherhood these days, especially the moms who are working as well. And, you know, that's one thing I always just say, like, thank you so much that I can put my time into something that's inspirational, that I really want to do, just because, you know, my husband has his career, because nowadays it's like women feel like they need to work, they need to provide, they need to come home and be the mother, then come home and be the wife, and
but
then
you want to be with your
clean,
kids. Like, I'm like, I don't want to hire all these people to help us. It's like, you know, I didn't have my mom around, and I know what that feels like. I want to be there for my kids, but I also will want to make them proud as a mom, and especially when you have a partner who owns a business, like it's hard, and it's just trying to balance all the things. Yeah.
It's really about balance and perspective. I'll leave with this funny note is I had 2 friends. One was a working mom, so she worked graveyard shift, right? And then the other one was, she worked daytime and her husband worked graveyard. So her husband took care of the kids during the day. And then the other one was a stay-at-home mom. And they're talking. And she's like, oh my gosh, like what I would just give to be at home with my kids all day, and this is like the time you're getting with them, and this. And the stay-at-home mom was like, I would give to go to work during the day.
I was going to say that conversation.
Yeah. And so it's funny because it's what you and I just spoke about. It's like, oh, you know, I'm going through this at 4 years old, but I only have one. And I'm like, shoot, if I only had one, I feel like I'd be coasting right now.
Right.
It's really that idea of we're all going through different things and understanding that there is a balance to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the relatability too. I think it's like, it's all hard, and just to make sure we are having these conversations about the hard stuff. And it's like, I agree. Like, like, I think about my girlfriend who's a stay-at-home mom, and I'm like, I don't know how you do it, Britt. Like, I don't know how you do it with 2 kids at home all day. You know, but I love being with them too. But I also love being out and about and having adult conversations.
I would like to be home and then have the option to like.
Yeah. Well, at one point,
exactly. Whenever
Dibble when I need to. When I need to.
Well, at one point, I couldn't even
turning
think
into a
about
baby.
the simplest of things because I'm like, all I'm doing is speaking Goo Goo Gaga
Literally,
all day.
eat, breathing, and sleeping,
and
baby.
you go on the play dates and they're all talking about baby stuff. I'm like, can we talk about the news?
Yeah,
can we
let's talk
about something else? And we're like,
else.
kid stuff, because I'm good. We're good. I don't need to buy any more things. They got everything. Like, I'm like, how are you?
Yeah.
Like, what's happening in your life?
Gossip a little bit.
Just
oh
something.
my gosh. Yeah, we got to stick together.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
anyways, thanks again for sharing your journey.
Thank you so much, Jamie.
Thank you.
For those of you, all the ladies and any fellas that are listening, just please remember that you can please follow us at Me Again Pod on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify to stream and listen to our episodes. Again, just please like and follow, and that's the only way we're going to keep this train moving. So stay tuned for Me Again workouts, Me Again brunch, all of that good stuff coming soon. And thank you guys. See you later.